to keeping a very, very strong build and a very small amount of body fat.
Ron Huff lived alone in a small studio apartment in the suburbs of Newark, Delaware. Few people even knew he was there.
They called Ron an acquaintance. He was a neighbor. We'd have just, little neighborly talks at the mailbox, whatnot. If Ron was, disturbed by a neighbor making too much noise in their apartment with their loud music, he would go down to the basement utility room and just shut their power off to their apartment. And that would usually, stop the Friday and Saturday night parties.
Ron Huff would let nothing distract him from his obsessive daily routine. He divided his time between his home and his work at a car lot in downtown Newark.
He just looked like the type of guy that lived a very comfortable, relaxed life, not a conformist for all society, but more of a guy that just lived life the way he wanted to live life. He was quick to smile and quick to joke or be friendly, but Ron would not initiate conversations with people much the way an average person would. He kept to himself.
How are you doing? Oh, fantastic. How about your little friends at the house there? How are they?
Huff didn't easily let others into his life, but his neighbor, Jeff Wildonger, was one of the few who came to understand that Huff's passion wasn't people, but animals.
We were down at the mailboxes, and he was mentioning that he had a collection of lizards, and wanted to know if, I was interested in seeing them, and I went down there thinking that, these lizards would be small and in cages, and in fact they were, 6-7 feet long and had free reign of the apartment.
Ron Huff had converted his whole studio apartment into a giant lizard cage. As a healthy temperature for a lizard is 80 degrees, Huff had heated up his home for the benefit of his pets.
It was organized mayhem, if you would. There was a lot of stuff in a small area. It was honestly a little intimidating. The first time I was there, he was feeding them raw chicken, and I was standing there wearing shorts, and he told me to stand still as they were licking my ankles so that I didn't threaten them. It was just a really bizarre situation.
Wildonger also noticed that the animals that had taken over Huff's home appeared to be somewhat out of control.
He did have problems with lizards fighting in his house. The larger ones would attack the smaller ones. He had a cat. The cat had been attacked several times. The cat had a very large scar on his back, hindquarters, from one of these lizards.
But for Huff, it appeared that any injury was just an everyday part of living with his reptiles.
One day, Ron walked up to us and said, "You had asked me once if I was ever bitten." And he could actually pull one part of his flesh away from the other.
Oh, dear God.
We had known that the monitors had injured his cat. Now we see the wound on his thumb, and we thought, maybe this isn't such a good situation. Maybe he doesn't have quite the control that he thinks he has over these lizards, and we became concerned because we didn't want him to become further injured. Ron's love of animals completed his life. He was very committed to being there when he needed to be there, being home when he needed to be home, and taking good care of them.
Ron Huff had made a decision how he was going to live his life. He would devote himself to his work, his body, and his beloved animals.
One day, we expected Ron to come to work at 9 o'clock a.m., and we didn't receive a phone call by 20 after 9. We figured figured, well, possibly, he's ill, and we knew that he didn't have a phone. So the rest of the day went by, and we had never heard from Ron at all. The following day, we sent an employee to his apartment to see if Ron was okay, to check on Ron. We could hear a TV, and there was no answer.
The day came and went, and still no one had heard anything from Ron Huff.
I had come home with my roommate and I. We were at the local tavern, and it smelled something unusual in the bathroom. And in this apartment building, the pipes ran up the central wall, so the smell from Ron's apartment was coming up this hollow wall into our bathroom, and I had thought it at first was a broken sewer pipe. The next morning, I discovered where the smell was actually coming from.
Rufus thinks he's a person. Sometimes it's cute, but other times it's not. His fondness for people food is an invitation to some unwanted guests. Luckily, I read on my favorite blog about nipping problems in the bud, so I did, and got rid of the ants. This stuff lasts for up to 4 weeks. As for Rufus, he's been reassigned to other parts of the house.
Visit animalplanet.com/takecharge. Brought to you by Raid Ant and Roach. Kills bugs dead.
Hi, kids. Don't mind a harmless little ant like me. All right, eating. Come on, guys.
When one ant finds food, it leaves an invisible trail for other ants. Raid Ant and Roach kills on contact.
Raid!
And breaks the trail. It also kills ants for up to 4 weeks.
We lost our signal. There must be a dead zone. Raid!
Get the protection you need. Raid kills bugs dead.
S.C. Johnson, a family company.
Final days of Lumber Liquidators hardwood flooring closeout sale. Get unheard of deals on hardwood and bamboo up to 56% less. Easy Click hardwood and bamboo 10% off. Top name laminates from only 49 cents. Plus special extended financing. Hurry, sale ends Monday at Lumber Liquidators.
Introducing Tropical Island Grill only at Golden Corral. This is island cooking at its best. It's breaded Cozumel Island shrimp, Fiji, lemon pepper, tilapia, and much more. It's all part of our endless dinner buffet, still for one low price, and it's only at Golden Corral.
The party, Joe!
Party City's annual store-wide clearance event is going on now. Clearance items start at 50 cents. Costumes from $5. Everything for your summer party up to 75% off. Party City. Nobody has more party for less.
Celebrate the biggest sale of the year. The 25th anniversary sale and sweepstakes at PetSmart. Save up to 25% on thousands of items. And save up to $4 on wellness dog food, including new Wellness Simple limited ingredients. Take me out to the fun spot. Take me out to their park. Give me some thrills and some ballpark tracks. I always want to go back to miss you. Feel you for the home team issue. Feel you for the pride. Service 1, 2, 2 bucks for you at the huge fun spot.
It's you!
You see that? The satellite dish. And that? Well, the weather guy says it's heading this way. If you have satellite, chances are that storm is going to rain on your parade. The reality is, satellites are affected by bad weather. Once they get affected by bad weather, you lose reception during the best moment of your favorite show. That's a shame. At Bright House Networks, we make sure you get what you need and like what you get. We guarantee it.
I feel this would be nice. Make it happen.
Twisted Tank. They're still playing it safe.
Holy crap! This is incredible!
And football star Bart Scott sends the guys out for a catch.
Yo, Brett, don't pee in that soup. Too late.
This is the way you hang catfish now.
Look at that.
Oh, we hit a home run. Touchdown, whatever it's called, we hit it.
Tank. New episode. Saturday at 9. Only on Animal Planet.
It had been 3 days since work colleagues or family had heard from Ron Huff. Such behavior was completely out of character for such a conscientious man.
The next day, his family called concerned because they also had not heard from Ron. So we called the police.
You hear the term routine a lot, but the truth is it's never routine. Typically, when you respond to these types of complaints, it usually means either the person's out of town or they're deceased. In this case, we knew that he was not very mobile. In other words, he was sort of close to that community. You know, they go to work every day on time. They contact their loved ones on a daily or weekly basis. And when a person doesn't do that, we had a pretty good indication of something was happening. The truth is, we weren't prepared for what we found.
I woke up that morning and could hear some beating on the wall or the door. Headed downstairs to find out what was going on, and there was a pretty large group gathered, and I figured that he'd gotten in trouble for having these animals.
As the officer was peering into the apartment, they immediately noticed that there were what appeared to be large lizards roaming about inside of the apartment.
At first, the police saw Huff's lizards. And then, what they were feeding on.
I think shocking is a pretty good interpretation of what we found. It's a pretty harrowing experience for the officers at first because primarily we didn't know what killed this individual. We didn't know if there was something inside, some sort of exotic animal that was responsible for it.
We're not trained as far as lizards and knowing which ones are poisonous, which ones can hurt you, which ones are non-threatening. So it made it very difficult initially to conduct the investigation. But as we got closer and the evidence technicians began to take the photographs and look at him and examine the body a little bit closer, we realized that part of his facial region had been consumed. There was a lot of injury to his soft tissue. There was hands, his shoulders.
Jeff Wildonger, one of Huff's few friends, found himself face to face with his neighbor.
When the coroner and the medical examiner were working on Ron, they had the door open. It was such a graphic scene in my mind that I just felt like I had to try to get it out of my mind, maybe. So I just scribbled down a sketch of kind of what I had just been burned in my mind that day. His face was completely missing. You could see his molars up by his ears. His entire upper torso was just black from dried blood. His internal organs were strewn about. It was a horrific scene.
Due to decomposition and the other injuries that his body sustained, we were not able to get a clear picture of what he looked like. When I was able to obtain a photograph of him, I realized that he was an individual that frequented the same workout facility that I did. The one thing that makes it a little bit more difficult is, while I wasn't a friend of his, I knew him.
But the police were only just beginning to discover who Ron Huff really was.